Hi guys, this is going to be your reading video for the week of January 25th. This week we are going to be looking at the last story in our reading booklet, Solving Problems Through Technology. So if you'll find your reading booklet called Solving Problems Through Technology, we're going to be on page 20. In the last 2 weeks, we have read about how problems are solved using technology. Our essential question for this unit was, where do ideas for inventions come from? And we talked a little bit about how normally inventors are observant. They look at the environment around them. They watch how people react. They think about people they encounter and different events that happen. And they notice problems. And when an inventor notices a problem, they will usually come up with ideas of how they could make something better, or they try to invent something new to fix a problem. So, where do ideas for inventions come from? They come from the world around us, the different problems that we encounter each day. Think about different problems that inventors have solved in the past. We read last week about Thomas Edison, and one of the important things that he invented for us was the light bulb. And that was very important. We also read last week about George Washington Carver. He invented several different uses with peanuts and sweet potatoes. And that makes life a little bit easier for us if we can use peanuts and sweet potatoes to make different inventions from. So, all of these people have worked to improve things or to make things easier for people. We go back and think about the first week when we read A Woman with a Vision, and we read about her invention of windshield wipers and how that makes life easier. This week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about technology, and we're going to be looking at robots. The title of lesson 20, the title of page 20 is Robots Go to School. In this story, we're going to be thinking about the main purpose of a text. What is the main purpose for an author writing a text? I want you to think about that there are 3 different kinds of purposes an author might have to write a story or to write a text. In my class, we talked about the letters PIE, P-I-E, and those help us to remember the 3 different reasons or purposes for writing. PIE, P-I-E. P is for persuade, the I is for inform, and the E stands for entertain. So you have P-I-E, which spells pie. And so learning about an author's purpose is as easy as pie, P-I-E. Persuade, inform, or entertain. Well, to persuade means that the author wants you to think a certain way. Maybe he's writing an advertisement wanting you to buy a certain kind of bubble gum. Or maybe he is making a TV commercial wanting you to buy a new kind of toy. Those are different types of persuading information because they're trying to get you to think you need their product, or maybe they're trying to get you to do something. Maybe it's a school putting up posters trying to convince people to recycle. Those are all different ways that you persuade people. You get them to think like you or get them to do something that you want them to do, whether it's to buy a product or to do something like recycle. Those are things that you can do to persuade. The I stands for inform. If an author writes a text to inform, it's usually going to contain facts and information. So maybe they just want you to learn about a certain topic. If you remember way back at the beginning of the year when we first started these little reading booklets, we read about penguins in Antarctica. And so most of that story gave us facts and information about the weather in Antarctica and living there as a penguin. So those were facts and information that we read to learn more about that topic. So that would have been to inform. The author wrote that story to inform us about a penguin's life living in Antarctica. Normally, if it's to inform, you see real pictures of real people and real places, and it's mostly facts and information. The last example is E, entertain. Stories to entertain us are just fun stories for us to read. They might make us laugh. They might make us happy to read the story. It might just be something fun to read about. I'm sure you've heard of the stories Junie B. Jones. Those were kind of funny stories. There's really no purpose in writing those stories other than to entertain the audience. The author writes the Junie B. Jones stories to give the reader something fun to read. And so we have 3 different reasons or purposes for a text: persuading, informing, and entertaining. So when we read a story, the first thing we want to think about is, what is the main purpose of a text? So as I look at page 20 and I read the title, Robots Go to School, in this unit, we're going to be thinking about the main purpose of this text, or the reason the author wrote the text. And today, we're going to practice identifying the purpose of specific sections in this story, Robots Go to School. I can look at the pictures. I see on this page there is a picture of a little boy in a hospital bed, and it looks like there's a little camera there for him to look through. I can also see the camera all the way down here with his picture. So by me looking at these pictures, I see some type of a robot here on the page. I can tell this story is going to probably be to inform me. It's going to tell me about how robots are used in schools. But I'm going to read about it first, and then we'll make our decision of the whole thing in just a minute. So let's listen as I read the story, Robots Go to School. Starting on page 20. Some students can't go to school. Sometimes they are sick in a hospital. Other times they might get sick if they go to school. But these students deserve a full school experience. Today, there are robots that let kids who can't go to school feel like they are there. So this story kind of sets the stage for what we're going to be reading about. This paragraph helps us to know a little bit more about robots going to school. If I just read that title, I might think about a robot actually walk into school. That might seem like a fiction story, something that was made up. But as I read this little caption here, this little paragraph, it tells me that the robots are used because some students can't go to school. So it kind of clarifies for me the title and helps me to understand what I'm going to be reading about. All right, so in this first part, I already have identified the purpose of the author writing this story, Robots Go to School. It tells me that robots are used for people that are sick, that can't go to school. So the purpose of this robot is for people that are sick. And I already know by reading this part that I'm going to be learning about some facts and some true things that really happen in real life. So I know this story is probably going to be to inform me, to give me information. But let's keep reading. How school robots work. On his computer screen, Nate sees everything the school robot sees. If the teacher does a math problem, Nate watches her. Nate hears the teacher talk. from the hospital, Nate can ask questions and he can talk to his friends. That's pretty neat, isn't it? The robot has a video screen. Nate's face shows up on that screen. If he wants to answer a question, he presses a button. A light flashes on the robot. The teacher knows to call on Nate. The robot has wheels. It can maneuver through a classroom. It can travel up and down the hallways, and it can go to an art or music class. As I read these two paragraphs, I came across a word that I have not heard before. So let's go down here and see. It says the word maneuver. Now, this is one of our vocabulary words. If I want to think about this word in my story, what does it mean by the word maneuver? Let's listen to the sentence. It can maneuver through a classroom and it can travel up and down the hallways. So what do you think the word maneuver means? It's talking about the robot. The robot has wheels and it can maneuver through a classroom, up and down hallways. What do you think the word maneuver means from that sentence or those sentences? I see that it has wheels, which means it can move in different places. I also can see that it goes to classrooms and goes up and down the hallways, and it can even go into specific classrooms like the art and music class. This tells me that maneuver means to move around. So I think that the word maneuver means that the robot is able to move in different places and is able to get around easily within the classroom and down the hallways. That word maneuver is a little tricky, but it just means to move around. All right. When I read this part, it helped me to understand a little bit better about how Nate uses the robot to help him. Look at the robot, and it shows you right here him and his picture. So that is what his class would see. And then as you look right here, on the side of his bed, he is able to see his teacher and he's able to see his classmates. So that is what he would see, and he's able to talk to the robot. And then the robot would show his picture to the class, so they're able to see what he's learning and what he's doing there too. Let's keep reading. Nate moves the robot with his computer mouse. A signal is sent through the internet to the robot, and the robot sends videos back to Nate. So this tells us a little bit how it works. And so Nate is able to control his robot with his computer. The next paragraph says in the classroom. So let's read about how the robot works in the classroom. The children who use school robots often give them nicknames. Some children dress up their robots. The robot might wear the child's favorite t-shirt or bright ribbons. That's pretty neat. Let's turn the page and see. Oh, there's the robot in line at school. It says a school robot leads the line. Look at the kids following. There's the picture of the robot in the classroom. Let's keep reading. The other children think school robots are special too. They often forget that the robot is a robot. Instead, they just see their friend. They talk to their friend just as if he or she were there with them. They call out to the robot in the hallway or say goodbye when they go home. Teachers like having these robots too. The robots let teachers keep in touch with students who are too ill to come to school. Teachers can even give classroom jobs to the children at home. So I bet this child has the job of a line leader. And so that would be why this robot leads the line, because this child gets to be the line leader. That's pretty cool that they still get to participate. When I read this paragraph, I saw the word ill. When I think about the word ill can have several different meanings. Ill can mean mad or angry. It can also mean sick. When I look at this sentence, it says the robots let teachers keep in touch with students who are ill to come to school. So, what does that word ill in this sentence mean? What kind of students would be ill that they would need a robot? That's right, sick students. So, in this story, I know that the word ill means sick. The students are too sick to come to school. If I replace the word ill with the word sick, the students who are too sick to come to school, it fits. So I know that that works in that sentence. That's what that means. Let's keep going. Look on paragraph 6. Of course, school robots are not real children. They cannot think or talk on their own. They don't learn for children who use them. Those children still have to pay careful attention. They still have to turn in homework and get assignments signed. School robots do have limitations. They cannot climb stairs or open doors. Sometimes they bump into things. When the internet is down, the child who is sick cannot tell the robot what to do. Let's go back and think about that word limitations. That's one of our vocabulary words. That's a hard word. Let's think about that word for just a minute. It says that school robots do have limitations. They cannot climb stairs or open doors. Sometimes they even bump into things. Or when the internet's down, they can't function like they need to. What do you think that word limitations means? When I think about the words that are around the word limitations, it tells me that robots can't always do everything. So they're not like a real person. It says they cannot climb stairs or they cannot open doors, and they bump into things sometimes. So they can't see where they're going very well. So that tells me that the word limitations means that there are certain things they cannot do. If something has limitations, that means that it can't do everything. Limitations means that you are limited to a certain number of things you can do. Maybe there's only a few things that you cannot do. You have some limitations. So these robots cannot do everything that humans can do. So that word limitations tells me that they are not the same as a person. There are certain things they cannot do. What important point is the author trying to make in paragraph 6? Let's think about the purpose of him writing paragraph 6. What do you think the purpose is for the author writing this paragraph 6? Well, if I want to think about the purpose, I need to go back and look at my first sentence and see what it's actually about. It says, of course, school robots are not real children. They cannot think or talk on their own. As we go down through here and look at these different words the author has written, it tells me how robots are different from real children. That the robot, again, there's that word limitations, cannot do everything. The robot is not like a real child. So what is the author's purpose in writing this paragraph? The author's purpose is to let us know what a robot can and cannot do. And it compares the robot to a real child. Even though the robot can be helpful, the robot cannot do everything. So while we might think that a robot would be cool to have or very handy to use in a classroom, it can't always do everything, and it may not even work exactly correctly all the time. Think about how the internet goes in and out all the time. There are problems that you might have with a robot. So this paragraph tells us those things. That would be the author's purpose for writing that paragraph. Turn the page and we're going to keep looking. The last paragraph. Paragraph 7. However, the limits school robots have are made up for by the benefits that they give kids. No matter why a child cannot go to school in person, a school robot can give that child a full school experience. So here's a picture of a robot, and there's another picture of it in this classroom. It says a school robot helps a teacher. So that robot can actually help a teacher teach. Here's a caption, robots in the real world. Our world is filled with robots. Some robots are smaller than school robots. Others are much bigger. Many robots work in factories that make cars, cell phones, and even candy bars. Other robots work in hospitals. They help doctors treat sick people. Robots do dangerous jobs. They go places that people cannot go, such as the ocean floor. Robots help explore outer space. So, from this story, we have learned that robots are very helpful. We have learned how robots help in schools and classrooms. We have learned how robots can even help send people information in places that people cannot go, like outer space or the ocean floor. Robots are a big part of our world today, and they will be an even bigger part in our future as people learn more about technology and different ways that we can do things. Let's think back to our story for just a minute about the author's purpose. And we were thinking about why the author writes the things that he writes. I think in this story, we talked about our 3 different reasons: to persuade, to inform, or to entertain. This story was mostly an information story. It gave us facts and information about how robots are used in the school or in the classroom. It also told us a little bit about how robots are used in the real world. All of these facts and information help to inform us more about robots. So I think the author's purpose for writing this text, the main purpose for writing this text, would be to inform. But we can also look at each individual paragraph and talk about the purpose of writing each paragraph or the purpose of including the paragraphs. We looked at paragraph 6 and we talked about the purpose the author might have for including that paragraph. We talked about the word limitations. And when we say the word limitations, it means restrictions, or that the robot is limited to certain things it can and cannot do. And so we talked about how the robot is different than a real child. So the author's purpose for including this is to help us understand that a robot is not perfect. There are certain things it just can't do. You know, authors write for lots of different reasons, but this story was a good one to clarify an informational piece, an informational text. As we look at different stories this week, we're going to be thinking more about the author's purpose. I hope you get online and practice the activities that go with this story and learn more about the main purpose of a text, the author's purpose of a text. I'll see you later. Bye.